focus for the World Bank and for Rwanda as well, given the setup of our private sector, is the experience of SMEs. And so we realized that these procedures had to be categorized. We had to categorize our buildings, the different construction projects, understand what is a complex project and what are the requirements for that versus what is a less complex project, a small-scale project, and what are the requirements for that. And so we made sure that we streamlined the requirements for small-scale, less complex projects, which is really what SMEs are in the business of. And so for those, we've made sure that we remove very costly, cumbersome procedures such as requirements for geotechnical studies. Those are, soil tests and so on, requirements for environmental impact assessments, topographic surveys, all of which came up to a cost of over 3 million Rwandan francs, a very significant, portion of the value of the building which you're looking at for an SME, which is around, 30 million or so. So over 10% of the cost for building these simple projects was going into procedures and requirements that a government entity was looking at. So we've made sure that those are eliminated to continue as much as possible to make it easy for SMEs to operate and to do business in Rwanda.
So Rwanda is currently ranked the 29th easiest place to do business globally, which is quite a significant score. Now, how significant are these particular reforms to the overall performance of the country, and how likely are they to see the country score even bigger?
So maybe let me just start by saying, it's the World Bank Doing Business Report and the score are a very important tool for us in terms of, it gives us a very good measure of, how easy are our systems and our procedures, in terms of facilitating business. The end game is not the score itself, it's not the rank itself, but it's a very, what we've noticed is it's a very excellent guiding tool for us to benchmark. But it also is a very important signaling tool for investments and for investors into the, attractiveness of a country as an investment destination. That said, construction permits, this indicator is one where we are ranked quite low in terms of the ranking. We're 106th globally, and so obviously it presents a very significant potential for us to improve our attractiveness and the ease of doing business in Rwanda if we continue to streamline the requirements and the environment within which people can obtain construction permits.
So we also understand that these reforms are in line with the Doing Business Action Plan 2020. So talk to us about this particular one.
Right. So this year, as with every year, we have an annual action plan. And for this particular year, we're looking at reforming, almost across all our indicators, all the 10 indicators that are measured by the World Bank. We're probably reforming around 8. Within 8 of those indicators, from starting a business, where we've eliminated the requirement for new businesses to pay what is called the patent. That's a local government trading license. So any new business within its first 2 years of operation doesn't have to pay that. We've also got very exciting reforms in getting electricity. Last year, we were able to put in place a very significant reform where we're able to measure, using an automated system, the frequency and duration of power outages to inform the utility and the regulators on how best to improve the reliability and quality of electricity. With that system in place, we are now, we've been able to see exactly what our shortages are like, the areas that are most affected, and based on that, the utility, Rwanda Energy Group, they've put in place, they've developed and commissioned about 5 additional substations. And as a result, our duration in terms of, how many hours a year do we have outages has gone down all the way from, I think it was about 14 hours to today we're looking at just 2 hours. That gives you an indication. So that's a very major area which we think is very important, because industries, if you talk to any industry, that's one of their biggest issues is reliability of supply. And we also have some major reforms in enforcing contracts, making sure that we put in place small claims procedures for claims that are under 5 million. Again, you're looking at what an SME encounters. So any claims that are under 5 million will now be going through small claims, which is a much shorter procedure, but also one where parties can represent themselves and don't have to incur, expensive costs of hiring attorneys and so on.
Before I let you go, when can we expect to see these reforms take effect, and what will implementation take?
Some of these reforms have already taken, effect. For instance, like I said, the small claims procedure is already in place. The reforms in electricity are already in place. The reforms in tax, these are already in place. But officially, our reform cycle, in terms of looking at the World Bank, is end of April. And so we will be making sure that all pending reforms are completed by that period. And in terms of implementation, one of the key things is, it's one thing for government to put in place procedures, to put in place regulations that are easy, but it's very key to communicate those so that the intended beneficiaries are aware and can, apply them and put them in practice. And so we will be making sure that we continue to communicate these very strongly, both in the public media, but also in focused sessions with reform beneficiaries, and also following up with the implementing institutions to make sure that they are, enforcing the reforms.
Finally, some people have suggested that local construction companies should be given preferential treatment. So what's your take on that?
I think, the case was made very clear. Rwanda is open for business. We are an open economy, and we are not going to close off, our economy to be it foreign investment or foreign expertise. What we think, is really the value of that is that there is a lot of opportunity for knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange between foreign practitioners and our local industries. That said, we do realize that there are areas for reform in understanding how best can foreign and local experts or practitioners interact and make sure that that knowledge flow is actually put in place. But also looking at some of the requirements for foreign expertise to practice in Rwanda, and make sure that those are updated and are reflective, again, of international practices.